Hey, everybody. Thanks again for listening to the Tech Vibe Radio One Mic Stand. This is Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council and, of course, Tech Vibe Radio. And we keep telling so many of these stories. It is going to become the summer of stories here on the Tech Vibe Radio One Mic Stand because great people keep popping up out of the woodwork with some great tales to tell. And we got two gentlemen here today that I think are just doing some great work, helping people connect with employment. It's so important right now because we see these two different sides of the equation where some companies are downsizing and laying people off. I know tons of other companies that are hiring, and in between, these guys are existing and doing some really great work. We're talking to Josh Probanik from Financial People Staffing, and of course, Ken Hicks from Broadwing. And guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah, no, this is awesome.
Thank you. So Ken, first off, what's up with Broadwing, man? I dig the name. It's a cool name.
Yeah.
Like you're taking flight somehow.
Well, that's actually the name. Actually, I'm from upstate New York originally, and a hawk that's native to my hometown, a broadwing hawk. That's actually how I came up with the name. I wanted to put some of myself in the company, but yeah, right now it's such an interesting time for hiring. But us as a company, we're a small niche firm. We do a lot of software engineering recruiting. We do, well, I should say engineering recruiting in general. We spend a lot of time in autonomous driving, but also a lot of software as a service and mobile applications and that kind of thing. And, for us right now, we've had some, like you said, we've had some clients who have been able to continue to hire. And then we've had some that, unfortunately have been on the other side and have really had to slow down and try to maintain even their own clientele. So, and we've tried to be completely understanding of both. But, for Broadwing, one of the biggest things when I started this company was talking about how we could be more impactful for candidates. And I didn't expect that card to get pulled so hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, is that what you're about? Well, you're about to get your opportunity. But, the time has come very quickly. We're 2 years old. And so, this has been one opportunity for us to really dive in and find out what ways can we actually be the most impactful for candidates trying to get back to work or figure out their next steps when things get to normal or what have you, right, and actually be advocates for them while, of course, at the same time being great for our clients. So yeah, proofs of the pudding.
It's good time to learn in, right? Good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so Josh, what's up with your background and what you do with Financial People Staffing?
Sure. So our firm is actually based out of Buffalo, and the Pittsburgh office is an extension of that. We focus on finance and accounting staffing primarily, and we're slowly dipping our toe into the tech space and recruiting as well.
Okay.
We're niche like Ken, and we, like I said, finance and accounting is kind of our sweet spot, and we recruit from, accounting clerk positions, administrative assistants, all the way up to CFOs, directors of finance. We do a lot of work with public accounting firms in the area, which is, love working with those folks. They're all bright people, very, very, a lot of good conversation, a lot of learning. I started recruiting a little bit over a year ago. And so this was an interesting time to still be cutting.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are both just like, let's see, let's be challenged as hard as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Just stepping into this whole thing.
Yep. Yeah. But I think one of the reasons that Ken and I really got along, and it's a new relationship that we're developing between the two of us. But our company is, they've always stressed from the beginning, before any of this stuff started with the pandemic, you need to spend the time to really get to know people and what they want and what they're looking for. And the focus on that relationship building and building trust with people is something that really I believed, and it's the reason I took this position in the first place. Okay. And now it's like all of those things that we were already doing, it's just exponentially grown into this whole different type of relationship. Yeah. I'm almost talking to more people now than I was, a couple.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing that a lot from everybody. For as much as we're all torn apart, it's like everyone's reaching out to each other more.
Yeah.
And of course, as we are via Zoom or whatever it is. And I guess it is weird. Like everything's, for as much as things are slowing down, I feel like it's actually sped up. And obviously you guys are experiencing that same thing.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback, if I could, for a second off of what Josh was talking about, I've been doing a little background myself. I've been in talent acquisition for about 8 years now. And yeah, starting my own firm, I would say the timing could have been different. I'll use the word different, given that, at scale here, what's going on. But, the thing that I think for sure brought us together in terms of getting a chance to meet Josh, and I'm being from upstate New York. That's how I met some of the folks on his team.
Yep.
I was going to ask you, get that. How did you guys link up? We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, but the people on that team really align well with our ethos of getting to know people and not just being the recruiter who needs to get a hire, and that there can be more quality in recruitment and in relationships in general. A lot of times we talk about why do we recruit? And I think this resonates with yourself, Josh. I mean, we get an opportunity to help people continue their careers in the paths that they're trying to go, or maybe it's a career change or what have you. And that's an opportunity I just don't think that we take lightly. And working with computer people staffing, financial people staffing, seeing them be very serious about that. And so, having a relationship between two recruiting firms, I think it's becoming more common. But back only 4 or 5 years ago, absolutely not. That would just not happen, because everybody was so protective of, especially in tech recruiting, as that started to heat up, people were so protective of their clients. It wasn't about the candidate. It was about your business and growing what you could. And I think a lot of recruitment in general suffered because of that. Yeah.
Definitely. Now it's things have changed so much. Now I'm seeing people, as you're doing, working together. Tell us about how you guys have come together, because I really love the fact that you are now helping folks polish up their LinkedIn profiles, checking out resumes, giving them interview tips. What's going on with all that?
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I was just going to say, so we have a mutual connection. Our company, Financial People, we have a parent company called CP Staffing, and it runs 3 different companies in the Buffalo area: Computer People Staffing, Financial People Staffing, and Medical People Staffing, which is just going crazy right now up there. Those people are the
wing of it right there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We're on happy hour calls with them, Zoom calls like this, and every week the circles under their eyes just keep going. Yeah. But anyway, a gentleman up there named Greg Eastmer, who we became fast friends after he joined the firm not too long ago. We were talking about different ways we could develop this firm in Pittsburgh, because in our essence, in Buffalo, it's an established firm. Financial People Staffing's been there for 45 plus years. In Pittsburgh, we've been here for a little bit under 6, maybe a little bit over 6. And I just had joined myself. And so he was giving me some tips, here's maybe some people you want to talk to, and brought up Ken's name and said, Ken was already working with Greg on a rec in the tech space for one of his jobs. And around Christmas time-ish last year, because I remember it was cold when we met Ken.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was cold. I think I was wearing a scarf, but we met for some hot coffee, and just kind of started feeling each other out. And it right off the bat, I could tell Ken was a great guy, and we shared a lot of the same, as he was talking about the passion for wanting to help people. That it has really evolved into this collaboration that I think is very different than what many staffing companies usually experience in their relationships with other staffing companies trying to do splits. Split is when you share a job requisition, and you work on someone else's job, you give them candidates, or vice versa. And it's been really great. And then Ken, if you want to kind of talk about how that developed and how you brought me into the reviews.
Yeah. Well,
Nice.
Well, like I was saying earlier, this moment, it pulled our card fast. You try to make, on LinkedIn and other outlets that you talk about what you're doing. You talk about the kind of company you are, but really you're talking, in some instances, you're talking about who you are, and you're talking about the company you want to be. And we continually push content in our blog or on LinkedIn, all of our teammates, about advocating for candidates, not focusing on just building the cash flow. I mean, because if you focus on that, you could be a very successful company, and there's plenty of staffing firms that are out there, and no shade to them, some shade to them, but no shade to them. But it kind of hurts what recruiting should be doing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to come up with something. It's like, hey, you know, a lot of people are being impacted. You have people in a city like Pittsburgh where, you know, retention can be more like 5 or 6 years. You know, in tech in like California and San Francisco, the Bay Area, it could be like 2 years. It's getting less. The average was getting pretty low. It was getting pretty low. It was like 8 months. You know, it was getting down. But here in Pittsburgh, you know, it's a little different flavor. Folks might have been in a role, you know, at a more established tech company that's, you know, working on really long projects. They could have been there 5, 10 years, something like that. Or, you know, even the folks who are more towards 2 to 3 years in their role, but then let go from something or, you know, unfortunately laid off due to the circumstances. And, you know, not having a resume or a LinkedIn presence, that's something that, you know, having not had to think about for 3 years, 7
right. You're behind the dirt at that point, right? I mean,
right.
It's like you're way behind, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, I need help brushing up my skills here.
Yeah. I need to know how to like advertise myself. Let's say you've been out of it for 7 years. LinkedIn you might have set up an account once and just been like, all right, I mean, I have a job anyway, so LinkedIn. Yeah, like I'm on, but you know, and
so come find me.
Yeah. So even just talking about how do you navigate that platform altogether now, which, you know, from when I started, I'm not like that old, but when I did start recruiting, like we legit had phone books on our desks, right? So, you know, that might have been how I would have found somebody like that, you know, not long ago, but now that's completely different. So we created Broadway reviews, and basically just as a simple portal that people could come to and ask for help on their resume and on their LinkedIn profiles, and for absolutely free. Nice. My team and Josh as well would review their information, give some feedback and some helpful tips.
How's it been? How many folks have been submitting for help?
Yeah, so when we created this, I was like, if we could just help like 12 people.
I see where this is going.
Well, I would have been happy. And I wouldn't say it's been like overwhelming, but I think we're closing in on around 50 people off about really maybe a month of action now at this point, closing in on a month. So fantastic. I would say we're probably, and we're actually going to do more in terms of advertising this as a service. We're going to, you know, put some marketing dollars towards it. It's a way that we can help. And of course we interact with candidates that maybe one day we can
pipeline builder for you guys, because you're absolutely out there. You get to learn who they are. You're helping them with a solid. So it gives a nice foundation to get a relationship going. That's how you've been doing business, right? Because it's all on solid relationships.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And we're still hiring, you know, we're still working with clients as it is. So, you know, it's not taking away from who we are as a business. We find it as an amplifier for who we are and an opportunity to show our true colors, and in our relationship with Josh and their team and who they are. So, you know, if I could say, you know, anything about what we've built here is just a simple portal for people to submit their resume and LinkedIn profile links for us to review, is, you know, you'll get an opportunity to have your stuff reviewed by somebody that looks at profiles all day long.
You guys are the experts, man. You can read these things inside and out.
Looks at resumes, and you'll get a chance to interact with somebody that, if we can, we'll point you in the absolute right direction towards a role, or give you at least the proper kind of guidance where you can start to put together like how you advertise yourself.
What are some of the more common things that you're helping people with? Like, what are the big faux pas people are coming up in their profiles on LinkedIn?
Josh, you got any?
There's got to be some good ones here.
Where do we start?
There's some fun ones.
Oh, man.
Well, don't name names unless you want to, of course.
I think really at the base, this is something that we took some time to talk through before we even started this. You know, well, we want to make sure that our messaging is consistent with what we're giving people out of this. Mm-hmm. And so I think the big thing that we really focused on is you want to make sure that the story is clear.
Yeah.
That they're able to tell their story. And if it's not, then, you know, our job then is to kind of dig into why is that the case? Some of the big things, I mean, just in terms of formatting, I mean, formatting. Let's just talk about the basics on anything. If you're submitting a paper, if you're sending an email to someone important, like spelling, just simple stuff.
Simple things,
like,
right?
Yeah. I mean,
remind them. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's sometimes if someone's working on a resume, they don't really think too much of it. But no, this is your portal. This is your marketing product of yourself. Right. And one of the things that I've really seen lacking, and it's not at the fault of anyone, it's just a learning point, is in telling your story on a resume, you don't just want to say, here are my responsibilities, there you go. It's like, okay, well,
accomplished, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great. You can't just put something out there and say, well, this was what I was in charge of. It's like, well, what did you do with that? Yeah. What was the impact you actually had on that role? What did you build relationships?
Increase sales by 38%.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, what does that mean? How does that trend? Does that mean that you brought on like?
Led to me being fired and now having my resume here on.
So if there's anything that I think people need to really focus on, it's being able to say, okay, these were the things that I had to do. These are the things that I was responsible for. And then you want to talk about, how you did it and who. And it doesn't need to be 3 paragraphs, and your resume doesn't need to be 10.
It's got to be quick read because it's got to stand up.
You got 15 to 30. You got 15 to 30 seconds that someone's going to, maybe even that. If it goes through an applicant tracking system, if you're applying for a larger company, it's going right into their system. You got to make sure you have the keywords. Like, what keywords are they going to be looking for? Read that job description before. If you have experience in some of those technologies that these companies use, then you want to make sure that is clear as day on your resume. If it's not, you're going to find that you're not going to be getting calls back. You're not going to be getting responses. And those are some things that I've really seen, that if you have those, if you're able to really portray in a quick amount of time, like what you've done, you're gold.
Yeah. For me, the story part always sticks out the most to me. And I try to tell people for both their LinkedIn profiles and their resume, that regardless of, format to me is super important because it just has to be clear and readable. But tell your story. And putting the things that are on there that are like, I was in charge of, like, all the soap. I had to make sure there was soap. Like, well, was there soap? And like, did your soapness like prevent corona? Like, we need to know that. That's important. I feel like that could get you hired somewhere.
I would call myself a soap dispensing, engineer.
Yeah. And
full soap dispersion.
And sometimes I think it gets really comfortable, and I see this because my biggest thing is I see this come through in a lot of resumes and LinkedIn profiles. People will lean on this particular saying, and it frustrates me to no end. They say, "Well, I'm not good at talking about myself."
Ooh,
well, and that kind of shows through on their LinkedIn profile. Like, says 2010 to now, I've had a job.
Exactly. I've had a job.
And this was the title, and that's it. And I get that, but the professional world cannot consume what you're capable of if you don't take the time to properly tell your story. There's nothing I can do as a recruiter to tell that story for you. And that's, my biggest segue for them is that, hey, this is you getting to tell your story to me as a recruiter or a job poster or somebody who's going to come across your profile or resume. And my job from there is to get the team in a place where they feel confident that you could be a strong candidate. And I can't do that when the material is lacking. Exactly. So, when there's nothing really there for me in terms of like what it is that you were doing, I can be like, this person was a software engineer. And they're like, oh, like, well, what did they do? I'm like, they engineered software.
Yeah. They must be really good at it too, I bet.
Yeah. So I just, there's specifics here and there. I just went over one today that was really all format. And then it was like, I'll go over another and like format's great, but the spelling or grammar or content. But all of it is like, you got to find a way to tell that. For me, all of it is you got to find a way to hit all those marks so you can tell the story clear, give someone else the opportunity to tell the story well for you.
And I'm just pumping you guys to help people along. This is just so cool that people can submit to this portal. And where can they find this portal?
Yeah, that's going to be Broadwing Reviews, broadwingats.com. Or if they just go to broadwingats.com, there's a page, a link at the top of the page that just says reviews, resume and LinkedIn reviews.
We'll put that in the liner notes so people can check this out and take advantage of it, because I think it's a great service. I'm so glad to see you guys working together to do this and make this happen. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, the response, getting an opportunity to interact with candidates. We've interacted with some candidates that are definitely in different walks of life in terms of like what they do professionally.
Mm-hmm.
We've interacted with people who, you know, are later in their careers, earlier on in their careers, and everything in between. And so even for that experience, even for my team, that's just been a positive experience to get to see what people are going through, because it's hard to gauge the talent market even under normal circumstances. And I don't even think that the market was normal, like, you know, pre-COVID, because it was ridiculous. There was especially in engineering, in my opinion, there was an abundance of roles, right? You could pick, you could choose. And a lot of people, I'm going to like get up on my talent pedestal here for a second, but talking about,
how do we look from up there?
But, you know, giving people an opportunity, telling everybody that they got to follow their dreams. And the reality is right now that with things changing, sometimes it gets a little bit more challenging to just say, actually, I need to just kind of do a job and do it well for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I need to maybe be a little bit more competitive than I was in the past. And people are going to start to see some of these instances where they apply a bunch and don't get a lot of responses. But, you know, so things are changing quite a bit. And so for us to get a chance to kind of get a pulse on that and how we can be helpful, I think that that's just been nothing but positive.
Awesome stuff, guys, all the way around. So glad we got to talk about this. I'm so glad that you guys are hanging out together doing this good work. It's making a difference here in Pittsburgh. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we think so too. And, you know, a message to anyone who's like really kind of in the trenches right now, this is a difficult time for everyone. I mean, I spoke to numerous people that were just like, I'm out of a job. I just need work. I'm applying, I'm not hearing back. And it might be hard in that mental state to want to continue to pursue that job search. But, you know, if you provide yourself with tools, or reach out to someone that you trust, a good recruiter, a good friend, or a good friend in HR, whatever, to help you along in that process. I mean, it's a full-time job. There's that old saying, looking for a job is a full-time job, right? The job search is a full-time position, and it really is. And just keep at it. If you do the right things, you have all the pieces of the puzzle. It's going to come together at some point. Right now, we can't say. It's something Ken and I talked about. Like, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know when the hiring is going to.
I was hoping you could.
I know.
At that point, I'm through with you guys.
Jeez. I know. We've been looking for one for a while, but it hasn't shown up yet. Ordered one on Amazon, also didn't show up yet.
You guys are fun to talk to, man. I love it, man. Very, very cool. Like I said, check it out. Be part of this. Like it's something that if you need help, these guys are here to do it for you. And maybe some great feedback, and maybe there's a connection somewhere along the line that happens as well too.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
It. Josh and Ken, you guys are the best. Thanks for being on One Mic Stand today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Jonathan.